Welcome to Mecum Presents On the Move, brought to you by State Farm. It's the show geared toward keeping you up to speed with the latest auto news, event coverage, and expert industry insight. Now, here are your hosts, Matt Avery and John Kraman.
Hey, and we are so glad you've joined us for another On the Move. I'm Matt Avery, executive producer of The Transmission, and joining me is my co-host, John Kraman, lead TV commentator for Mecum Auctions on NBCSN. John, we've got a little bit of a milestone show today. It is On the Move, episode 25.
Yeah, and that's significant, Matt, because, when we started this earlier this year, not quite sure where it was going to go, but we really had a lot of fun covering a lot of topics, have had some great guests on, and we've got a lot more coming up as the year progresses.
Well, and that starts today with this program where we have not one but two guests coming on the show. Starting with in segment 2, we'll be talking with Don Weberg. Don is the publisher of Garage Style Magazine, an entire publication dedicated to the cool places that people store their favorite vehicles. So we'll be hearing about his travels. And then in segment 3, we'll be checking in with Ronnie Blaine. Ronnie is the owner of Blaine's Hot Rods and Customs in Lepanto, Arkansas. The reason we're talking with Ronnie is he built a really slick truck that just crossed the Kissimmee Summer Special auction block, and it turned a lot of heads, and we're going to be diving deep into how that build came about.
Well, that sounds great, Matt. I think we have a good show coming up. Let's run down the very extensive Mecum schedule, not only for the remainder of 2020, but going also into January with 2 auctions. So just to break it down, the next 4 months, Mecum's got 8 auctions on the schedule, jam-packed. Next auction coming up, of course, is going to be mid-October, coming up right in our backyard, or right in the background. That will be Dallas, October 15th through the 17th. A couple of weeks after that, we're back to Indy for what we're calling a fall special. Traditionally, we go to Las Vegas with cars. Mid-November, we're back again for that. The tractor guys have announced Davenport 2020, a 3-day auction running November 19th through the 21st, also featuring a lot of vintage trucks. So we may have Paul back on in the show to talk about that, especially high-performance tractors and trucks like we've done in the past. Kansas City is back November 19th, 21st. Houston, December 3rd through the 5th. Those auctions, with the exception of the tractor auction, all follow this new formula that Mecum has developed. 3 days with a 1,000-car target, but all that changes in January when we head to Kissimmee for the world's largest collector car auction. 10 days, January 7th through the 17th. Osceola Heritage Park, target is 3,500 vehicles. Everybody's hoping we get back to business as usual. And then, of course, traditionally also we finish up the month in Las Vegas with the world's largest motorcycle auction. That runs January 26th through the 31st at South Point. 1,750 motorcycles on the target for that. And as we get closer to that, we'll get Greg Arnold, the motorcycle guru, back on to bring us up to date on what's happening there. That's quite a schedule, isn't it?
It really is, John. And speaking of automotive events, I know there hasn't been a lot this summer, but we just had 2 of the biggest automotive events outside of a Mecum auction, starting with the 26th annual Pure Stock Muscle Car Drag Race. John, this event is so cool. You and I have talked so much about it, and we really need to get there. So it just happened recently, September 18th and the 19th at the Mid Michigan Motorplex. I had the chance to talk with Dan Jensen, who is one of the 3 event organizers and also a founding member of the event. He filled me in. He said this year they had another stellar turnout. They had 109 cars.
Wow.
That included cars coming from as far away as Florida, Connecticut, and Texas to participate. Now, a little bit of background about the event for listeners who are unaware. The Pure Stock Drags is an opportunity where enthusiasts and collectors can bring out their favorite muscle cars and actually put them to use drag racing. Now, there are some parameters, including vehicles have to be manufactured from 1955 to 1979, and as Dan put it, with obvious muscle car intent. And they don't allow any kind of day 2 modifications. The goal is to get cars as close to showroom stock condition as possible. Now, day 1 of the event, it is all about qualifying and time trials, and then day 2, they are doing shootouts all day long. This year, Dan said the top performers were running in the high 11s. Some of those cars include a 69 Chevelle L78 with the L79 option, a 70 Hemi Cuda, and a 74 Ford Formula Super Duty 455.
That's an event that's been on my radar screen for years, Matt. I'm really glad you had a chance to talk to Dan. Hats off for being able to pull off a very successful event in these trying times. What's the most amazing thing about these cars, other than the fact that they literally look pure stock, is how well these cars perform with stock size tires, OEM appearing tires. They can make modifications that are essentially invisible to make sure that the cars launch properly. And of course, the gearing is very aggressive. You mentioned engine modifications such as raising the compression, but they also will allow the engines to be blueprinted and brought up to the maximum specifications. The production line has a lot of variance typically, so these guys really are very careful about the way they put these engines together. They also spend a lot of time with ignition timing, getting the fuel management down properly, and the carburetors, no fuel injection, of course. So, yeah, it's an impressive thing. You're right, man. We gotta head out that way. Hopefully next year.
Well, when I talked to Dan, he barely had unpacked his bags, but he did say already planning is underway for next year's event. And all I can say, John, is come September, you and I need to be in Michigan for this.
Well, and of course, Bloomington Gold, the big Corvette show, the granddaddy of all Corvette shows, was held a couple weeks ago, and Guy Larson reporting that despite some changes to the show for obvious reasons, went off very, very well. A lot of cars earned the Bloomington Gold certification, and it was also the first year where they included resto mods in the judging. You may remember we had Guy Larson on the show a while back explaining that was going to happen, and he just liked to say thanks to everybody for participating. That includes sponsors. Mecum, of course, proud to be involved with that, and really looking forward to having it bigger and better for next year.
Well, turning our attention to car news, Nissan's created a lot of buzz. They have pulled the wraps off what they're calling their Z Proto, and it's their new sports car. John, let me ask you, right off the bat, when you saw it, what was your first reaction?
Well, yeah, that's right now it's very, very big news out there in the press, and Nissan really hasn't released as much information as a lot of people would have thought, but they have shown us what we believe it's going to look like, and I think the key is the name, is the Z Proto, meaning that it's not necessarily the way the production version is going to look exactly. Rumors are flying it's going to be called the 400Z. They have said officially it will be a twin-turbo V6 for a power, which makes sense because they have an engine currently ready to go in that family. And they're very proud to say that they will be offering, as standard equipment, a 6-speed manual transmission with automatic transmission optional. I think that's sort of a shot over the bow of the Toyota Supra, which will be a direct competitor with this car, currently only available with a automatic transmission.
Well, and I think one of the most remarkable aspects of the Z Proto that you and I both liked is how much retro was incorporated into the design.
Yeah, and I think that that's smart on Nissan's part, because the legacy of the Nissan Z car started in 1970 and immediately established itself as a cool car. Did well in racing, sold well, but over the years it's evolved and it's transformed into a variety of different cars, into the current car, the 370Z, which has been around now for over 10 years. They definitely needed something new, and from what we've seen, some of the retro styling touches, I especially like the side profile, where you're really kind of going all the way back to the 1970s, that run of the original Z car from the 240 to the 260, the 280, all that ran 1970 through 1978, and I can see traces of the design of that car in that look. What did you see that might make you think that they're kind of headed towards the retro theme with it?
I really like the blacked out taillight panel. I thought that was a really neat touch. The other item that I really liked is the return of the iconic Z badge, moving it from the front fenders up to the C-pillar. I thought that was kind of cool. That's something we haven't seen since that first-gen car.
Right, and that was probably the biggest thing that I saw was that badging. It's funny how just a small badge makes such a huge difference. But as we know, going back really to the muscle car days of the 1960s, the badges and the placement of the badges, strategic placement, are really critical in getting the look of the car just right. And I'm anxious to learn more about it. We'll keep our listeners posted on any new developments on that new Z car.
Well, another vehicle that has been big on the retro is Ford's forthcoming Bronco. The latest development, John, is it looks like Ford might have listened to Enthusiast. They are offering that vehicle with a manual transmission.
Yeah, and that's funny because I wonder if they knew that would happen all along and they had it, the manual transmission availability on the Sasquatch package, or if they did, in fact, yield to the demand. There was a petition was presented to Ford to make the Sasquatch, which is their serious off-road version. Some of the items will be 35-inch tires. It's lifted, Bilstein shocks, some other things as well. But that 7-speed manual transmission is only going to be available with the base engine, even in the Sasquatch. That's a 2.3-liter, 270 horsepower Turbo 4. If you want the most performance available on your Bronco, Sasquatch or otherwise, you'll go with the twin-turbo 2.7-liter V6, which puts out a pretty potent 310 horsepower. The configurator at Ford.com is going to be up sometime in October with pricing as well, and they'll be going on sale in spring of 2021, so not too far away from maybe seeing some, not only out on the road, but maybe even on the Mecum auction block. I'm going to predict we're going to see some in the early days.
Yeah. Now, Ford has stayed busy, and momentum is building for their Maverick pickup truck, John, which actually would slot below the Ranger, and it seems like it's a brand new segment, and I wonder if that's going to be one of the hottest ones in the years to come.
Why they picked that Maverick name is a big mystery. Of course, the Maverick was their pretty cool-looking little compact car built from 1970 through 1977. But yeah, you're right. Nothing confirmed out of Ford yet, but lots of tidbits and spy photos and ideas out there that it's going to be a small, very ultra-light duty, probably a four-door pickup truck, maybe even sharing the same platform and powertrain as the Ford Escape, which would be a 1.5-liter 4 and a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, depending on the particular version. Knowing what Ford has done now with the Mach-E Mustang, putting that on a four-door, kind of a pseudo SUV, maybe not surprised that they're taking some of the more popular names from the past and putting them on products that really don't have any direct connection with what Ford had done in the past. As far as I'm concerned, I think Maverick's a pretty cool name, so...
I like the name, and I kind of like this segment. It's just interesting because you and I were talking about that we really haven't seen a vehicle like this in recent years since Subaru's Baja, which I was a big fan of. Consumers weren't. It really never resonated fully, except for the diehard group, except there's been some quiet rumblings of Hyundai has a Santa Cruz pickup.
Right.
And I remember they brought that out to the auto show circuit a couple years ago. They made a big splash, and it kind of went quiet. And then it seems like they've been slowly making progress on it. I'd forgotten that it's going to be a 21 model year, so that thing should be in showrooms very soon. It'll be interesting to see does this segment heat up.
Well, and I think that is a very good question. We will be watching and reporting on it. And I'm going to make a prediction that I think we're going to see more of these utilitarian, entry-level, inexpensive, probably in the base price of around $20,000 pickup truck, very, very light-duty pickup trucks. I think we're going to see those more and more.
Turning our attention to next week's show, John, there's going to be a lot of car news to get to as you and I will be reporting from our time at a FCA media preview. We're going to have the opportunity to check out some of the latest that FCA has rolled out this summer. Highlights include the very exciting Ram 1500 TRX as well as the Jeep Wagoneer concept.
Yeah, we're going to see new offerings from Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, and Jeep. I'm really looking forward to seeing the more performance-oriented versions and hearing what FCA has to say about that. You and I are both attending different segments at different times, so it's going to be fun on next week's show for you and I to get together, compare notes, see what we think, especially what might be available on the showrooms as early as the 2021 model year. Some of the new offerings are going to be available pretty soon.
Mecum Auctions is proud to bring you On the Move with Matt Avery and John Kraman. For more on the world of collector cars, head over to Mecum.com. Now let's get back to the show.
A big part of the collecting car world, as well as just vehicles in general, is where enthusiasts and owners choose to store their vehicles. And more, John, we are seeing some truly awesome garages and collections out there. And there's an entire publication dedicated to showcasing the very best, and it is called Garage Style Magazine. And we are so excited. We have Don Weberg, publisher, on the line. Don, thanks for stopping by.
No, thanks very much, guys, for having me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to a nice talk about garages and garage style.
Hey, Don, take us back to day one. How did you get started with garages, and then how did you integrate the idea and make it all happen in regard to having a really cool magazine highlighting garages?
Well, I was a freelance writer for years. I graduated college with a degree in journalism and, worked for some newspapers, but I was doing an internship with a couple of magazines. And once those ended, that turned into freelancing. So, of course, the next thing you know, your editor is sending you out on assignments. This guy's got a really cool such and such car. That guy's got a really cool such and such car. Go get them. Okay. So the next thing you know, you're meeting all these guys with really cool cars and really, really cool garages. And, time rolls on and you start to realize if these guys like garages and I like garages, there must be a lot of other people out there who like garages. And one thing led to another. I met a few people who thought, you know what, you're getting pretty good with this magazine and writing and stuff. Well, why don't you put a magazine together about this? And it just kind of rolled into, one thing rolled into another. And we got a little bit of financing from the family and put out our first magazine, and it went over pretty well. And we sold a couple of ads. We gave away a few ads, and then it just kind of kept on going.
What year did you get going with the magazine?
We started the business in 2007, and we launched the magazine in 2008, which, if you remember 2008, the economy was basically tanking. We were walking into a new presidency. The internet was absolutely murdering print, and it was really a bad time to be an independent publisher and coming out of the woodworks, and nobody really knows who I am because I was always just a freelancer. And so it was really hard to tell people, hey, we've got a brand new magazine. Why don't you come advertise with us? And then they say, well, what's it about? And you say, oh, it's all about garages. Wait, what? It was a concept that had never been done. So what I ended up doing, the best way or the easiest way to make people understand, was to ask them, had they ever heard of Architectural Digest? And of course, most people had. So when you tell them, okay, think of Architectural Digest if it only focused on the cars and the garage, and then the light bulb goes off and they get it. And so, it was 2008. Our first magazine came out in May. Nicely, though, we were bought by retail huge. It was a very, very big success at retail. And that was what kind of gave us the tread and the credibility to, push forward with advertisers and say, look, we're not only getting bought by Barnes and Noble, Borders, et cetera, but we're selling at, 40%. And that was unheard of back in the day. And we're still selling anywhere between 25 and 30%, which is still very, very high, very, very good rate.
So, Don, give us an idea. What types of stories and content do you put into the magazine?
Well, obviously garages. We're always looking for, when we started, we were always looking for car collections, big, impressive collections, and we're still looking for those. Those are the ones that we put on the cover, and they tend to sell a lot of magazines, which is great. But what we always are looking for is the regular guy, somebody who's got a nice garage, they've appointed it well. Maybe they just have one car that they're very proud of, and it doesn't matter if we're talking about a Bugatti or, a 2015 Mustang. It really doesn't matter what we're talking about, as long as the guy has the enthusiasm to enjoy the car and enjoy the garage. Essentially any garage is welcome. But then above and beyond that, we always have stories of products that are useful in the garage. We might do a story about flooring. We might do a story about what kind of paint to use in the garage. We might use an HVAC story, which is actually a pretty sensitive topic, because if you're going to have any sort of air conditioning or heating system in a garage, it has to be completely separate from the house air conditioning system. So that can be a pretty interesting topic. The internet has long been a big topic in garage style. People always trying to get faster internet into their garage, and so that's always been a topic.
Don, what are some tips that you can give us to improve the appearance and the utility of a garage, especially those of us with limited space? Any ideas?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of great ideas for guys with limited space, and the number one piece of advice that I found, and I learned it through Garage Style, was that a shed is a garage's best friend. If you can get your lawn equipment, your pool cleaning equipment, even some of the sporting equipment, maybe you have bicycles for the family, or you have basketball hoops, etc. if you can get those out of the garage and put them in a shed on the side of the house or in the backyard of the house, that really, really helps free up a lot of clutter for people. And the other thing to think about too, if you're building out your garage, you want to make something, really, really nice. Ask yourself the question, do you need workbenches? Do you need tool cabinets? Do you need cabinets themselves? A lot of people don't. Myself, I'm not a very mechanically inclined person. So I've got one small tool chest that my parents bought me way back when I was in junior high school. But that's it. All my cars go to mechanics to get worked on. So I really don't need a whole lot of tools. And if you don't need the benches, you don't need the tool chest, you don't need the cabinets, don't have them. Free up that space, clear up your wall, use your wall to hang art. Maybe you can create a little seating bistro where you can have a couple of chairs, maybe a couch if it's big enough, a television. You can turn it into a really nice little getaway room, which is really what the garage is supposed to be, in my opinion, is sort of a sanctuary. If you're a car guy, that can kind of become your church. That's where you like to go. That's where you like to hang out. That's where you unwind. That's where you let the world's problems just kind of go away. And if it's cluttery or if it's just not making sense to you, it's not, it's just not vibing with you, you got to get rid of it.
Don, it sounds like you've traveled far and wide documenting these awesome garages. What have been some of the highlights that have stood out for you over the years?
Yeah, excuse me. We have gone, around the country doing stuff, but we focus on garages all around the world. We get garages from Asia, South America, Europe, etc. And what's interesting is the garages that do stand out are the ones where the person has taken the time to think, what do I need? What do I want? We have a garage right here. I live just outside of Los Angeles, and there's a town called Pasadena. Has a fantastic garage in it. The cars are incredible. The garage itself is glass lined. The walls are completely glass. This guy has taken a very 60s James Bond approach to putting his garage together. But when you talk to him, you realize he really does think he's, James Bond. So it fits with him. But I think the best piece of advice for anybody is just think to yourself, what do you need? Don't look in the magazine and say, oh, that looks cool, I want that. Because what works for one person might not work for another. So you really need to do a little soul searching and decide, what is it that's going to work for you. Number one piece of advice, I think, outside of, thinking for yourself, is get the floor done. Once you get the floor done, that sort of ties everything together. So get everything out of the garage, have somebody come in there and either, epoxy your floor, put some tiles down on your floor, polish your floor. There's a lot of different options out there. But I have learned that once you get that floor done, everything else just sort of starts to come together by itself.
When it comes to cars, do you have anything in your personal collection that we might find interesting?
I'm kind of an eclectic person. I've got a lot of different tastes. The cars that I have been with me for a long time. The first one I'll mention is probably the weirdest. It's a '79 Chevy Caprice Classic, just a big boat of a sedan preferred by cops and cabbies around the country for years. And that is in the fleet because it's been in the fleet since it was new. It belonged to my godfather, and I inherited it. Next to that would be a '79 Fiat Spider. Next to that would be a '65 Mustang. And yeah, we're just kind of all over the board.
And Don, if people want to learn more about Garage Style Magazine, is there a website or what newsstands is it currently available on?
www.garagestylemagazine.com is the website. You can buy subscriptions there. You can check out, our latest issues there. We have a Facebook page that's pretty decent. Again, Garage Style Magazine. And on newsstands, we're, the ones that are open, which is really weird because of our current situation. Our biggest customer is Barnes & Noble. Second to that would probably be Books A Million. And then we're also sold up in Canada through a company called Indigo. But we're pretty much on all the newsstands. And if you don't find us, obviously you can get on the website and contact us, and we'll sell you one directly.
Well, Don, we really appreciate getting your insight on garages. And you made a really good point earlier talking about our garages can be kind of an escape zone. And I don't know of any better place in these trying times to be able to enjoy ourselves and our cars, whether we just gaze longingly in the garage at them or actually take them out for a spin. So hats off to you for putting together a fantastic magazine. I've been reading it for years, always enjoy getting it, and I'm a big fan as well, and wish you the absolute best in the future. And we will hopefully maybe get you on again sometime in the future.
I love that. Thanks very much for being a fan. I appreciate it.
Don't adjust that dial. On the Move, we'll be right back. Our program is proudly presented by Mecum Auctions, the world's largest collector car auctions. Now back to Matt and John.
There are so many vehicles that pass through a Mecum auction, and every once in a while you come across something that just truly stands out, and that's the case with a 2020 Chevy Tahoe that featured a ton of custom modifications. And joining us now is the man who put it all together, who built the truck, Ronnie Blaine of Blaine's Hot Rods and Customs in Lepanto, Arkansas. Ronnie, thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Ronnie, this is John. I just got to tell you, man, at our Mecum Summer Special down in Kissimmee, Florida in late August, this particular truck, for the listeners that want to take a look at it online, this was lot number S33.1. It's listed as a 2020 Chevy Tahoe. It doesn't look like it. We'll get to that in a moment. It sold for $110,000, and there was a crowd around this truck nonstop. And I wondered at the time when I saw it, it's like, man, what kind of a shop? How do you create something like this? Before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, take us back to your beginning. How did you get started in creating custom vehicles?
Well, we've been a full service body shop for the last 20 years, and I've always had the love for the 67 through 72 trucks. That's the best iconic truck that Chevrolet ever made, in my opinion. Everybody has their own, but we wanted to bring something that had the classic look, but you could get in and drive every day with all the modern conveniences of, all your safety, your airbags, your ABS, everything, air conditioner that actually works, something that you could get in and drive across the country, look old while you're doing it, but I'll have all the modern conveniences of a brand new vehicle. We started that with actually a 16 truck that we took across country over the last 2 years, and we took that truck to car shows, and it was amazing response on what we did. And we kind of converted that into something that you could put your family in the Tahoe SUV. The regular cab truck is limited on, obviously on how much luggage or kids or grandkids or whatever you could haul in it. So we converted our idea into the Tahoe, and that's what we took that to SEMA over the past year, and then met some guys there, and we ended up building that Gold Tahoe for a customer that we met at SEMA, and we have some more projects going on with him at the time.
Well, I want to get into kind of the nuts and bolts. Let me paint the picture for our listeners on exactly what we're talking about. What I saw in person at the auction didn't look anything at all like a 2020 Chevy Tahoe. It literally looked like a Suburban from that glamour era that we're talking about. We've seen similar builds in the past, or not similar, we've seen other builds where they take the paint schemes, maybe some badging and some wheels, but without changing any of the sheet metal, and those are pretty cool, and they're kind of semi-convincing, but you took it to a completely different level. I noticed major changes in sheet metal, including hoods and grills and bumpers, the rear tailgate, the tail lights. Take us into all the changes that you had to do to adapt a 2020 Chevy Tahoe into a Suburban from that glamour era.
Well, what we do is we leave the basic vehicle, the bones of it. We don't touch the frame. We don't touch the insides of the doors. We don't touch the interior. Well, we do touch the interior because we give it the houndstooth look and kind of to go with the exterior. But what we do is we take the actual skins off of a brand new vehicle. And when I say the skins, I'm talking about the door skins, the tailgate skins, and then we put actual old sheet metal on the front of it and give it the look. I mean, I've seen some guys that do, like what you said with the paint schemes and stuff, but they don't really capture the whole image. What we do is we give you the old body lines. Whenever we reskin a vehicle, I mean, when you open the door, it is still a brand new vehicle. The inside of the door is still 2020 Tahoe. You still have your airbag, your impact sensors. You still have all the modern amenities of a brand new vehicle, but on the exterior, you have the old school look, and that's what we do.
Ronnie, with this particular build, all of that exterior body modifications, is that all sheet metal or some of that fiberglass? Tell us a little bit about how are you going about creating those looks?
Man, I'm an old school guy. There are some companies out there that do carbon fiber panels or whatever, but everything we build is real steel. We use the aftermarket door skins that are real steel. And whenever we get done with a vehicle, you have a real steel vehicle. It's not something that's pressed out, in a fiberglass mold or carbon fiber or whatever. I mean, when we get done, you're driving an all metal vehicle that just has some modifications to make it look old. And that's what we pride ourselves in, is giving somebody a vehicle that's, you can be proud of. You can drive it every day. You can drive it to the grocery store. You can haul your kids in it, whatever. But you catch the old guy too that, they don't really know what it is. I mean, we've had question after question after question about what is that, and with the truck that we started with, we fooled 90% of the people, and they thought it was actually a '67 truck, when in reality it was a '16 truck that we just did a transformation on.
So if somebody brings you a brand new Tahoe and they say, I want this to look like one from the Glamour era, do you quote them a specific price? Do you have kind of a set price? Really curious on.
It's about a $40,000 conversion.
Okay.
That's including us supplying the sheet metal, us supplying all the work. The customer gets to pick out the color, the options, whatever they want. But we can supply the vehicle if that's what they choose, or you can supply your own vehicle and we can convert what you have.
And Ronnie, give us an idea for a build like this particular one. How many hours or how many months does your team have into it?
On the Gold Tahoe that we took to Mecum, that Tahoe was built in a 3-month period. Now, we had done previous builds, so we had, some inside information on what was going to fit and what we needed to do. But we can do a conversion like that in about a 3-month period.
Ronnie, like yourself, we're also huge fans of the Chevy trucks, Blazers and Suburbans from that 67 to 72 timeframe. Why do you think that particular era is so popular now with a whole new generation of enthusiasts?
Well, I mean, like I said before, I mean, I'm a Chevy guy, and in my opinion, and obviously a lot of other people's opinion, that is the best looking body style truck that Chevrolet ever made. I mean, Chevrolet's been in business over 100 years, and they've come out with various models or whatever, but that truck relates to. I think that truck relates to everybody with the styling of it, and I think that's what makes it so popular today.
Does the fact that the aftermarket is now on board making virtually every part and piece that somebody might need to either resto mod one or restore one back to stock, has that been a factor, do you think, of the kind of the new popularity of that body style, or not so much?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can go buy a basket case truck, and you can call companies like Classic Industries or LMC or whatever, and they sell every piece to make that truck brand new. And there's not a lot of that, with any other vehicle out there. So whenever you've got something that, you can go buy every bolt, every nut, every piece of sheet metal or repair panel or whatever, then it gives people an opportunity to bring back the old and have brand new sheet metal when you get done. I mean, that definitely helps out on the popularity of these trucks.
Ronnie, can you give us an idea of any current projects that your team is working on?
Yes, we have with the Tahoe, the gold Tahoe that we had at Mecum. I teamed up with we actually built that for a customer, and it's a very very nice company to deal with. It's Max Motive out of Pennsylvania. I met him at SEMA, and he saw what we had there. We had the Tahoe, the K5 Tahoe, the blue one, and then we had a '66 Bronco there that we had converted. That's actually built out of a 17 F-150 Platinum. So you get in a '66 Bronco and you're driving brand new truck. They like the idea, so we teamed up with them. It's a guy named David Maxwell from Max Motive, and we are currently building another vehicle for them. It is a 2018 Chevrolet Crew Cab 4-wheel drive, but it will, on the outward appearances when we get done, it will look like a 1972 C10 Crew Cab 4-wheel drive. That, along with a lot of other projects that we have currently going on right now, but that's along the same style. That's what we're working on right now.
Let's talk a little bit about Bronco. That's another hot segment. How much of your custom and hot rod business is dedicated towards Broncos versus kind of these C10 era projects that we're talking about as well?
Well, like I said, we started with the C10 stuff, but we brought the Bronco out at SEMA last year and gained a whole new group of followers. I mean, the Bronco, the old, of course, they have the new Bronco out now, but it is kind of a retro style. But with the Bronco that we built, it's something that you can get in and drive just like the C10 trucks that we build. And with that, we always thought we were just Chevrolet guys until we built that Bronco, and then we figured out, hey, we're just custom guys. We can't just be Chevrolet whatever. I mean, we have to give the people what they want. So that's what we've done, and we have several more of projects going on, Broncos, and we're actually building we got a 19 Hellcat in the shop right now that we're going to transform and look like into an old Charger. So, you kind of have to branch out and give the customer what they want. So, but with the shows that we've done, it has gained give us a little bit more customer base nationwide. So we're trying to take advantage of that and just give the customer what they want and give them an old school vehicle, but with all the modern amenities.
With such a portfolio of radical builds, Ronnie, you have to drive something cool. Give us an idea. What's in your garage?
Well, my granddaughter would be mad. I usually drive like a old school C10, something that we LS swap, cammed and everything else. But I have a hard time hanging on to vehicles. Every time we build something, somebody else wants it. So right now I'm kind of empty. We do have some projects in the works, but most of the time it's an old C10 or an old Blazer. That's what we're doing. But like I said, man, we build stuff. We build cool stuff, and somebody else always wants it, so we just let it go.
For listeners that want to stay up to date with your shop and the projects that are ongoing, Ronnie, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can go to our C10 Revival page on Facebook or Instagram, or they could go to our Blaine's Body Shop and Auto Sales page on Facebook or Instagram. We are currently working on a website, don't have it up and running yet. Or they could call me directly, text, whatever they want to do. My phone number is, I'll give it out publicly because most everybody knows it anyway. It's 870-974-1390. I like to be a hands-on guy. I like to talk to a customer before we start a build, kind of get an idea of what they want to do and work with the customer, throughout the whole project to make sure that we give them exactly what they want.
Ronnie, man, we just really thank you so much for taking us into your business. And I just have to say, on behalf of all the car guys out there, it's guys like you with the passion and the interest, and maybe most importantly, the ability to craft some really great vehicles. It makes our job out here at Mecum Land really easy. And we just really appreciate everything that you and your team does. And we're definitely going to be keeping an eye in future builds. And thanks again, man, for having us, or for letting us talk to you about what's going on down there at Blaine's Hot Rods and Customs.
Yes, sir. We'll have some more stuff coming your way soon.
You've been listening to Mecum Presents On the Move, brought to you by State Farm. For more information, visit mecum.com. And join us again next time as we take you inside the world of muscle and collector cars and more.